Steve, we saw the disappointment written on the faces of everybody on a defeat at Chelsea. What have the last few days been like? How have you been able to raise spirits around it?
It's been tough because obviously after the other night's result, then we lost our Premier League status, which we'd all worked very, very hard for. So it was a very difficult evening to accept. And obviously the following days are one of disappointment. But then we have to move on very, very quickly because we know where we're at, and we've got two massive games this season on Saturday against Southampton, then obviously away to Liverpool, and we have to finish the season strong.
How difficult is that to move on, given obviously what you've been fighting to achieve has now been taken from you?
Well, I think that's part of my job. I think once we know where we are, then the players, the response they showed this morning in training was terrific. They've trained really, really well. They're a determined group, and although that initial disappointment was there, as everybody would understand, they'll move on very, very quickly.
I know George Friend, in the wake of the defeat the other night, has said he desperately hopes that we can keep the squad together here at Middlesbrough for next season. In terms of planning for the summer and transfer strategies and the campaign in the Championship, where are you?
Well, we're quite fortunate in many ways because I think we've got 12, possibly 13 players that have a promotion on the CV. So from that point of view, you know, we have a strong squad, and also we have 23, 24 contracted players. So from that point of view, you know, everybody's together, and we're all looking forward to this Saturday put on a performance for the supporters more than anything.
These situations obviously give rise to speculation. I've seen this morning Victor Valdez linked with Man City, Martin de Roon linked with Everton. Is it unreasonable to expect that players will move on?
I think it's like any football club during any summer. Whatever happens, there's always going to be movement in the transfer market. But you know, as I said earlier, all the players are under contract. I'm not aware of any interest from elsewhere, and we'll remain focused as a group to finish the season off.
There is some talk this morning that Middlesbrough have agreed a fee with Hartlepool for Nathan Thomas. Can you shed any light on that?
I can't, no, absolutely nothing. I've been obviously been busy from the early hours of this morning, and no, I couldn't give you any light on that.
What of your future as well? I mean, obviously you've enjoyed the challenge you've had over the last few weeks. Would you like to be given the opportunity to continue in this role?
Well, I think after the disappointment of the other night, it has been an emotional time, and understandably so. And I'm no different. You know, I feel responsibility towards to what's happened, and I'll take that because that's how I am. But it's not about my future. It's not about you know, my situation. It's about Middlesbrough Football Club. It's about us understanding where we are. It's about how we finish strong in these last couple of games, and then we regroup, have a good summer, and make sure that we're in the fight to bounce back to the Premier League as quickly as we possibly can.
Sorry to press you, but do you want to stay here?
Again, it's the exact same answer to the exact same question.
What about Southampton then this weekend? It's the last home game of the season. The last two games played at Riverside. Obviously putting very good performances. How important is it that you sign off at home?
It is massively important, and I think the supporters this season have been amazing, home and away. I mean, even the other night, the supporters never stopped singing to the very, very end, and that's much appreciated from every single player and every single member of staff. And I think the last home game of the season is something that you know, that we should be looking forward to. A difficult opponent in Southampton, but again, play in a positive manner. You know, the last two home games we've had a win against Sunderland and a point against Manchester City. So it'll be a vibrant atmosphere, I'm sure, because that's how it's been all season. And the players will look forward to the challenge and hopefully get the 3 points that we very much want.
And in terms of team news, how will that continue?
Victor Valdez is still ongoing with a rib injury. He's struggling to make it. So is Gaston Ramirez with a groin strain, and Danny Ayala has started jogging again, but I think he's doubtful also.
Thank you very much.
Steve, it's always so easy to look back in hindsight, but as you do that, is there anything that you would change or have done differently since you took over as manager?
Well, obviously the results have not followed. I think the performances at times have been good, but then again we have had, we have had good performances against the top teams where we didn't quite get the rub of the green with the Arsenals and the Manchester Cities. So, yeah, the answer to your question is that I've been pleased with certain aspects of how we've gone about it. I've been pleased with the reaction of the players. I think certainly the home games has been a really, really good atmosphere within the stadium. And then there's been one or two disappointments, which certainly the Bournemouth and Hull away. But generally speaking, have I made mistakes? Of course I've made mistakes. And I think you have to hold your hands up and admit that, one or two things I might have changed looking back. But hindsight's a wonderful thing. I've enjoyed the challenge. I'm still continuing to enjoy the challenge. And I just want to make sure that we finish the season strong and put on a real top-class performance in front of the home supporters on Saturday.
I know you don't want to talk really about your future, and I respect that. In terms of just information for the fans, can you clarify whether talks will be taking place before the end of the season, or do you see this as a discussion that will be had from the club as a whole in the summer?
Well, I don't really know in terms of anything else other than preparing the team like we did this morning, and we'll continue to do that tomorrow morning and look ahead to the Southampton game.
And in terms of that game, we've seen that Sunderland, once going down, pulled off a bit of a shock at Hull, particularly with their home form. Obviously, as you say, it's a game where you'd still like to be fighting, but in a way sometimes the pressure does lift and performances suddenly rise, as it were, when that pressure isn't on.
Well, you could say that, but I think the group of players that we work with every day thrive on the pressure, and I think they would, if they had a choice, they'd rather this be a pressurised game where they need the 3 points. But it's different. But I know their attitude towards the work that they do, it'll not be for the want of trying. We'll play in a positive manner. We'll try to win the game. And if there's less pressure on the game, then so be it. But it'll not distract from the way we go about the performance.
And just finally from me, just a word on the scenes that we saw at the end at Chelsea. A lot of people remarking on Antonio Conte and his decision to go over and applaud your fans. I guess that really pays testament to them as well and their support for the team. Did that surprise you that as an opposition manager he was so warm towards your supporters at the end of a game that was very big for him for different reasons? Yeah,
I suppose it was a little bit of a surprise because obviously he's got a big job on his hands and he's trying to win the Premier League. So I think it was very much appreciated from us as a club that somebody like Conte gave some time to our supporters to applaud them for their support throughout the game.
Steve, you're worrying about Southampton. Obviously, the fans are already looking ahead to next season, and you sort of hinted earlier that you think it's important to keep a core of that squad together to build around.
Yeah, and I think that's really, really important because the success over the few years has been built on a core spirit, and that's something that I think is vitally important that we keep together.
Do you think overall with the squad this season there was perhaps, compared with, for instance, with Burnley and Hull, a lack of Premier League experience overall?
I don't know. I mean, we've got obviously Alvaro Negredo has played in the Premier League. Stuart Down has played in the Premier League. Brad Guzan, although he's just come into the team recently, has played in the Premier League. And I think what we have seen is people like Ben Gibson, even Adam Clayton's, Adam Forshaw's, I could go on and on and on, that have played the part this season in performing very, very well in the Premier League. So, but ultimately, we haven't done enough. So, we'll gain that experience from it. Everybody will be a better player, certainly the younger ones, and we'll move on and look forward to next season.
It's simplistic, but do you think you were just a 1-12 goal a season striker short this season?
Well, we certainly haven't won enough football matches, and to win football matches, you need to score goals. And you're right, we haven't scored enough goals, whether that's the strikers, wide players, midfield players, scoring from set plays. we haven't scored enough goals throughout the season.
Looking at the fans' reaction at Stamford Bridge and looking at within the camp, there seems to be not an atmosphere of anger, but more frustration. I mean, Ben Gibson felt it was a wasted opportunity this season.
Yeah, because the first season back in the Premier League is very, very difficult to stay in it. But we felt that we were ready for it. We'd earned our place in the Premier League, and we're all bitterly disappointed that we couldn't stay in it. But equally, through that disappointment, there's a determination already to prove a point to everyone that we put a performance on Saturday against Southampton that all our home fans are very, very proud of. And
away from the training ground, do you think now you've got that extra 2 weeks to prepare for life in the Championship, which is obviously a byproduct of getting relegated early, but could that actually give you a head start over some of your rivals, do you think?
Well, I don't know. I think planning and so on is left to the club. I think we just have to focus on certainly the game against Southampton.
And what sort of a day will it be emotionally for some of the players on Saturday who may not be here again next season, their last game in the Premier League at Riverside?
Well, the majority of players are contracted to the football club, so you know, we have Alvaro Negredo and we have Callum Chambers, who are loan players. So apart from that, everybody's contracted. Everybody will be doing the very best to take the 3 points on Saturday.
Steve, you talked about players' disappointment there. You had high hopes when you came in. How have you dealt with the disappointment over the last few days? How's it affected you?
I think I'm like anybody. I think obviously when it happens, it's devastating. It's not what we're in the game for. We're in the game to be successful as coaches, as managers, as players, whatever part of the staff you are. We want success, and that's why we're in it. When it's the opposite, it is devastating. It is, and it is difficult to accept at the time. But you have to be strong enough and big enough to move on and be ready for the next challenge.
Have you spoken to the chairman at all since the game?
No.
What lessons do you think have to be learned from this season, Steve, that can make the club stronger going forward?
Well, I think it's simple that, you know, the level that we're playing at, we have to be more creative, and we have to take more risks, and we have to create more chances, and we have to score more goals. But understanding at the same time you're playing against a level of opposition that have better defenders than the league that you came from. So consequently, yes, we must be better, and we must continue as a club to think that we have one aim next season, and that is to move back very, very quickly to the league that we've just played in all season.
Do you think that the fact that your squad contains that core group of players who did win promotion last season, do you think that makes you better prepared for what's to come next season? Say a club like Sunderland who have been up for 10 years. Yeah,
I think it does, because if you look at the accumulation of games played in the Championship from a number of players, then it has to be a head start for players that haven't. So yeah, I see that as an advantage.
I suppose the thing is, you can't be down for 7 years again. You know, you're looking for an immediate bounce.
Of course, yeah, that's priority. I mean, this Middlesbrough Football Club is a Premier League club, in my opinion. It's just the infrastructure, the training ground, the stadium, the direction from the top, and we fell short. But no, there's only one aim, and that must be to return back to the Premier League as soon as we possibly can.
And in these last two games, can you lay down a marker for next season?
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. I think we do need to lay down a marker, because it's a massively important game on Saturday in front of our home supporters, who, I keep repeating, have been magnificent all season.